Sorry, just started up the recording, everyone. I forgot to, among my many duties as I'm doing this, I forgot to hit the record button. But basically, I'm doing value relationships in a few different ways and just see which way I like it best. So now I'm going for my dominant value, which I'm going to consider to be a medium dark. I'm going to make a big pattern out of just that value. This is the thing that most people kind of struggle with this exercise, is like, why wouldn't you just paint the values that are there, right? People say that all the time. Well, because that's not as simple as what I'm hoping for. And I'm thinking big masses, large shapes. I'm squinting a lot. Come say something interesting, Scott, so I don't have to talk. Tell us why you choose to paint eggs. Is there an answer to that question?
Well, I'm just enjoying you making marks.
Oh, good.
I'm not kidding. Like it's I'd be lying if I said it was always fun to watch somebody paint, but I do enjoy watching you paint.
Well, just wait.
Well, I've decided to set the standards as high as I can.
Yeah, this part always looks good, right?
Right. Well, the time where it's all just potential.
Yep. Right.
Yeah, that's when I usually joke about how it's the newborn baby is going to be an astronaut or a president or something like that.
Yes, before
nope, they're just going to be a regular person probably.
Yeah, before they become a janitor, right? Not that there's anything wrong with being a janitor. It's fun too.
I am curious as to what you said about the single object.
Yeah, so we were talking this morning about your egg came up. I use it in all my slideshows. The egg popped up, and the typical everybody got really excited, and what were we talking about this morning? It was flatness. Oh no, it was cropping. We were talking about cropping.
Oh yes,
a whole slideshow about cropping, and I was telling them, it's amazing how much more impact you get from something where you zoom in rather than having the entire scene. And so when that egg pops up, it's like, yeah, like if I were to tell you, hey, I super cool painting, and they say, well, what is it? Oh, it's a cracked egg. Well, what else? No, that's it.
Right. Well, and you've heard me say it's what I usually tell people about a single object is it's kind of like only having one piece of furniture in a living room,
mm-hmm.
where it's it on one hand it suddenly has so much impact because it is that coffee table. There's nothing else there. There's just that one table, so you can't help but give it attention.
Mm-hmm.
But then it becomes that much more important that you treat it with a certain, I don't know what, attention, consideration, intensity, because it's not just going to be one thing among 20 things. It's all of your attention. And so the composition, like how all those intervals, the spaces around that object, so that it doesn't just sit dead in the middle of the painting, but instead is somehow in the middle, but I don't know, has some energy.
Yeah, and then that's what I was saying too. Is then there's so much going into the surface, at that point, because you can't just have like a dull little circle or an oval in the middle of a painting. You're going to have to do something else to make it more exciting, and you're the best in the game at layering those surfaces.
Well, I don't know if I'd say the best, but thank you.
Second best. Maybe I'm the best. You're close.
You're well, if we had a child. It's this notion that if you're going to pour everybody else's attention into one piece of a painting, it better have the weight to carry the whole canvas or
yes.
whole rectangle. So I was about to have you launch into it's interesting watching you paint this, and I was thinking about your I don't want to call it a rant on the natto. Is that what we're
Notan?
Notan, there we go. Notan.
Yes.
The sort of corruption.
Am I ranting about the Notan? Have I been doing that? I think, well, so the no tan to me, I guess that's sort of what I'm doing right now. I'm more considering at this point, not that the photograph has some inherent, light and dark pattern necessarily. I'm more interested in getting the light and dark pattern that I want, the kind of balance that I want, to the point that like, I want to see, let's just try this. And again, I would usually do this on my iPad, but it's every once in a while I have to put a brush in my hand. That, maybe I claim this entire foreground shape for team shadow I want to make the dominant value as large as possible. And actually, I kind of like that a little bit better. We'll see. So yeah, Scott, I don't know if I'm answering your question about.
You are. It's interesting to see how, and I think how you are not, what's the phrase? Tyranny of reality.
Yeah. Forget that stuff, man.
You're making a painting.
Yeah.
You're not telling us, look, I saw it.
True. And I, to me, as soon as my brain flips over to copy mode, I struggle. So this would be another thing, Scott, you could mention. I was telling them about our feud. I have a little feud, bro feud about observation, perception, which I think because even Scott's class has the word perception in it, that the idea of perception versus invention. And I think we each kind of sit on separate sides of a coin in some ways. I'm much more interested, like I'm barely looking at the reference material, in case you couldn't tell. I'm mostly just taking cues, but I'm staring at the painting. I'm seeing like where the echo is going to be. How am I going to get the eye to go down from this space to there? What am I going to do once I get here? What else can I find? There's this wonderful, you guys can't really see it. There's this wonderful little wire hanging down, like a electrical wire hanging down. Like, oh, that's the perfect device. So I'm sort of just, and in a minute here, Scott, I'd love to hear you explain. You do such a great job explaining your kind of observation when you say like you worship the appearance of an object, kind of a thing.
Well, it's I come at it from a bunch of different ways, and of course, if you ask me tomorrow, I'll have a slightly different answer. It's my usual quick answer, as you've heard before, and some of you heard before, is this idea that if you paint in a way that reflects the way that we see, we end up with more variety and something more dynamic, where things end up being treated differently, and that treating things differently is the key to me, or one of the keys to making a dynamic painting.
Yeah.
And and there are so many different ways to get to that spot of treating things differently. And a lot of folks can struggle with invention because they haven't observed
that's
that much. And so they sort of just, they do something a little easier rather than, more perceptive. Like I watch how you paint and the choices you're making here, where you're not obviously bound to that photograph.
Yeah.
And you are inventing a fair amount. But with
just
all
I don't know how to draw. That's the problem. If I knew how to draw, I'd copy things all the time. No,
Right. That's it. This is your escape hatch.
Yeah.
It's because you're constantly reevaluating what's there and changing it. And that invention isn't just a quick ta-da that you're really working on a while, that you are finding those differences. It's just sort of what's the path to getting to that spot where you don't treat everything the same.
Yep. And that is, I'm very concerned with the path. So that's what I'm establishing now. I've got the initial, the light shadow sort of pattern that I may or may not stick with. But now I'm going to start thinking, where do I want the eye to start? Probably, I kind of like these windows kind of coming in like this. And then I want to scoot around maybe down into this. I don't want to spend a lot of time getting the eye stuck in that spot. So I'm not going to put, in the photo, there's all sorts of, this and little shadows and all that kind of junk. I don't want to waste the viewer's eye in that spot. The roof here, again, because that's a contrast in the original photograph that I don't feel like I really need. And in fact, I'm going to do something really weird. I'm going to make the sky dark just to even make that another layer of, reclaim even more of that space for team dark. And I may change that. I'm in acrylic, so I have this. So now look how much more, I would say dramatic would be the word I'd, how much more sort of easily we pass through this space, how easily we get over to this space. I wonder if the palm tree could come back later. It doesn't look enough like a roof. But now, doesn't that feel like a little bit more emotionally, I don't know, like the mood of it is different. It has more impact, I would say. And that's what everything I try to talk about, it has to do with impact. So now I may be able to grab that little white side of the left house. We'll try it out.
That almost looks like a single object now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like an egg. So for a moment, I'm going to leave that white there. It feels pretty uncomfortable right now, but it may come back. So now I love the sharpness of this drain, this gutter. Really excites me, and that's going to be my device for stopping the eye from going off the page. Like that's going to be my right side goalie. So now I'm going to switch over to white. I've got some black. Let me finish off what I'm doing in black. And then I'm going to start diversifying the grays just a little bit. And this is nothing, I didn't have this planned. It's just how I kind of meander through a sketch. I do like there's a little gate behind that. Oh, and Scott, by the way, Joe Podlesnik was supposed to be here today, but he had something else going on. I think he'll be here tomorrow. And you guys who are at home, if Joe comes tomorrow, I'll do a special extra class. We'll do a slideshow of Joe's work and you can talk about it. It's always worth being around, listening to him. So here, you guys notice here in class, and we've talked about this online, that's what do we call this thing when they pinch together like that? Tangent. Yes, I love tangents because it brings the background shape into the foreground. And if you just focus on the sketch or on the photograph, see how there's this really cool shape. Like where the rooftop sort of tags itself. I'm sure that's what made me stop and take that picture. That the rooftop sort of sits right on top of that bush. What do we call that, Scottsdale people? Is that a bush? A shrub? A hedge? Yeah. They do love to trim their shrubs around here. It's kind of the Scottsdale aesthetic. So now, because I'm so interested in keeping the viewer busy in this space, once they've passed, I got to get rid of that crappy white thing. Hang on. It's bothering me. Once I get the viewer into this space, now I can really carve up a lot of little things to look at. And so now to go back to my reference, there's a palm tree here. There, the best palm tree ever, right? Yikes. Just pretend that's a palm tree for the sake of the sketch. There's a kind of neat little sub-building rooftop. I guess that's like a hotel rooftop right there. There's some interesting stuff. So I can put all of this detail attention into that space as long as the rest of it is sort of permeable and movable. And to me, that's a really satisfying way for the viewer then and this is what we were talking about, Scott, when you have the individual object, is it's clear where I'm supposed to look. And it feels really good to look at it and kind of concentrate on it. A lot of times when we're doing critiques, the problem is, as we had with your piece earlier, it's like somewhere in the flow, there's like a fly in the ointment, right? That it's grabbing your eye and not letting you go. I try to avoid that as much as possible. I want to be, smooth sailing till you get where you're supposed to look, give you something to look at, and then if you need to get out, you can get out. Yes, Sarah Salad Bees, I will record tomorrow as well. If I can remember to hit the record button, that is. Love these bushes. That's not distracting at all, is it, guys? The noise. Now they're like digging an oil well.
Oh, we can't hear it on our end, barely at all.
Oh, good. Thank you. So here's a kind of microcosm of what I'm talking about. this, there's a shadow underneath this rooftop. If I complete that shadow, I'm setting up a little bit of a boundary. So maybe I want that, maybe I want to keep the eye from going up into that shape, but maybe I don't. And so if I don't, let's try that first. If I don't,
for a moment, you thought it was oil, didn't you?
Yeah, I know. I'm like, hey, wait, it's not moving. If I soften that piece, soften that transition, now your eye is allowed to go. I kind of liked it better with something, being able to separate it. I'm going to toss in one new value for that roof. I like having it up there, but it's going to be very close to the other ones. It's not going to be that bright value that it is right now. Just to give a little hint, what's fun, I paint a lot of houses, is that rooftops can be any value. Sometimes you'll have sort of asphalt shingle that gets really dark. Sometimes it'll be very bright, kind of like the one over on the right side there. And so it's a really fun exercise to tinker with the value of rooftops. I do that a lot. And I like that. I think to have that feel like there's a little bit of light on it without breaking my scheme. Yep, I like that. So now I'm feeling like this is a bit amorphous. I want to pick up some of the information that's there, but I don't want to create, like in the photograph, there's huge contrast between the shadow side and the ground. I want to indicate that there's a ground. I like that, but I don't want it to be, I want you to be able to move through it pretty quickly. So I'm same thing with the roof. What I just did with the roof, I'm going to get it in there, but I'm going to cheat the value.
So Mark, this is not me tooting my own horn, but it's fun to watch you paint. No, there's no but. And I just, as you're talking about this, and what information you're going to sort of focus on and keep, and other information you're just going to say, this just interrupts our engagement of what matters to you in the painting.
Yep.
I'm reminded of that painting I did of the White House.
Oh yes,
with the bush.
You can share it. You've got screen control. If you dig it up, it'd be fun to look at it.
I'll share it for just a moment.
Yeah, let's do it.
Find it.
Just whenever. Yeah, I was actually thinking about that when I was getting ready to do this demo, so I'd love to show it. Oops. Where's the undo button?
All right, let's see if I can.
Yeah, go for it. And I'll suspend painter activity while you dig that out.
This will be very quick, I promise.
It's worth looking at. It's a great painting.
See if I can find a good photo of it. I have, you'd think would be.
They'd just be sitting, yeah, like.
Well, I don't know about you, but I end up with like 30 versions of any particular painting, and hoping that this is the one that captures whatever it is. All right. I'm going to share for just a second.
Yeah, go for it. No, nice.
Ta-da.
Yep.
That massing of values and losing a whole bunch. There's stairs that I decided to not paint because they just interrupted the painting, and it suddenly was like it was about accuracy instead of showing what mattered to me, which was the window and those little curtains and such.
Yeah, I'm showing it to the class here now too, and so you get like the windows. In reality, the windows have a lot in common, kind of like that guitar on the Sargent painting this morning. But in Scott's variation on it, he wants to move your eye in a different way. Same thing with how he's using his color, how he's using value. And he's got a Scottsdale bush right there too. Although it's not quite, mine's better groomed than yours, but whatever.
Mine's a Portland bush.
Right. So yeah, explain a little bit, Scott, about how you came to those decisions.
Well, I came to them, just the pure construction. This is a house a block from me. I took some photos, did some sketches, played with it in Photoshop, played with it in Procreate, trying to figure out what was important to me. And I thought I wanted more information. And I started the painting, and there were rafter tails, there were stairs, And it takes me a little while, just like the painting you're working on, it takes me a little while to figure out where I want my attention to be, what matters to me. And I find that I'm doing one of two things, and I'm either realizing that something needs a lot more weight,
Yep.
or other things need to lose weight. They need to get lighter or simpler, so that I can direct my eye to what mattered to me. In this case, this is a lot of paint on it. And it took a long while for me to sort out that I didn't want, as I said, those stairs and a whole lot of detail in the railing, because that made it a painting about proving I could see.
Yep.
Rather than constructing something that I thought was dramatic and compelling.
So how much, that was going to be my next question. How much on canvas adjusting do you tend to do, or do you tend to do it ahead of time, like in Photoshop?
I do. A lot of it is on the canvas. What I find for myself is that I come up with ideas in Photoshop or Procreate, and then I go to try to paint them, and there's such a gulf between what looks good on a screen and what looks good in physical paint.
Yep.
So that just the act of sketching it out on the digitally is really, really helpful, but I need to make sure that I remember that this isn't the destination now. This is just more material to help me sort out what's going to happen on the canvas.
Yeah, I think we're going to talk next week, the online class. We're going to talk about transferring your sketch to a larger, first from digital to whatever size, and then doing it from that to a larger painting. And it really is, you have to treat it as a brand new painting. You can't think like, oh, I'm just copy, because then you end up in that copy mindset again. We won't get to small to large painting discussion in this in-person class, but it's something that needs to be talked about.
All right, let's look at your painting again.
Oh, is it? Yeah. All right, Scott. Oh, yeah. So now I'm painting again. Put your picture away, Scott. There you go. Let's see. I can reshare. Here it comes. Yeah, I've done a little bit of painting while Scott was talking. I'll tell you what I did. I'm making a few little adjustments. Ooh, now look, it's not connecting. Hey, how fun.
You're welcome.
Yeah, right. All right, let me hang on a second here.